Orion's belt is one of the most prominent constellations. It's easy to see, and it looks different through the course of the night and where you are in the world. And so in my travels, this is something that really stood out to me. So that's what I was writing about with this song. And then because I was in this relationship between, Canada and Australia, I was really feeling that we were like these constellations in the sky communicating with each other, but unable to touch each other.
All bright and shiny eyed from across the universe, and you can see it,
Yeah.
and you can zoom with it.
Totally. And it was kind of weird that I had already written this song and then I was living it.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
All right, Ambush, and today we are joined by a folk pop alt artist who just released the lead single off of her upcoming 2023 album entitled 64 Magic Queens. What is this lead single? Well, it is entitled I Hate Goodbyes, and you don't have to hate goodbyes right now, because right now we are saying hello to my new friend, Sarah Burton. How's it going today, Sarah?
Great. How are you?
Ooh, I'm having myself a wonderful day, even better, because one of my favorite topics is music, and that is what we are here to chat today. Am I right?
That's right.
All right. And of course, like I mentioned, you just happened to release, I believe at the beginning of November, a track entitled I Hate Goodbyes. So I want to kick things off right there. Take us behind. When exactly did this song begin to take shape, take form?
I guess it took shape in 2019 when I was in the beginning, early romantic stages of a long distance relationship. And, saying goodbye sucks when your person is on the other side of the world.
That it most it sucks in general. I mean, obviously, whenever it comes to a loved one, but halfway across the world or otherwise, I mean, that's even rougher, right?
Yeah, and I mean, when you tour a lot, you meet people from all over, and it's exciting and it's great, and then you fall in love with someone, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, but it's a 16-hour flight to see you. But in 2019 when I wrote this song, I was still feeling really hopeful because you could still get on that 16-hour flight.
Yes, it's so this was written pre-pandemic then.
Yes.
So that long distance relationship has probably seen a little bit of trial and tribulation, as in, I mean, there's...
Oh yeah, it did not work.
Hey, you gave it a shot.
Yeah, we gave it a good solid effort. But
and sometimes, at the very least, if you can't get the lover, you can get a good album, right?
That's right. Yeah. We're still friends. We're friends. Yeah.
Hey, and that works out. And I mean, it's, once again, you can create some incredible music of it and some incredible imagery too. And that's one of my favorite things, I think, about the song, or at least the lyricism of the song, is just clearly you are a passionate person. Based on like your descriptive words. I mean, like talking about sparkling eyes and just all of these different ways of just like how somebody, like, you appreciate somebody and like how they light up your world.
Well, thank you. And also, so I will say this, if you embark on a long distance relationship, all you have is your communication. All you have are your words. And so I think that it does force you to like expand on your usual, even vocabulary or love vocabulary. You have to find more creative ways to express yourself. And then of course, FaceTime and Zoom and all that helps a lot. I don't know how people did it before. They just wrote letters. What?
Snail mail. What if the letter gets lost and then suddenly you're just
Right,
like,
you don't
what
even know if
happened?
they're getting it. You don't even know if they're getting it. It takes like months. And the letter says things like, oh, to touch your hand again, it's just,
That's some real romantic stuff.
yeah. But also, the distance, it does make you appreciate something as simple as a touch of the hand and just hearing somebody's voice. And the difference between hearing someone's voice on the phone in your ear versus visually, even that has a different vibration.
A different tone, right?
Yeah.
Comes across a little bit different, and even though it's the same, it's being able to have that person right there. It's a completely different energy, and I mean, it's
we've all experienced that thing where you hear your voice on someone's answering machine, and you say, "Who is that? Me? Who is that?" And it weirds you out, right? So, and then you think, "Oh, every time someone talks to me, that's what they're hearing. Why do I hear it differently?"
Oh, it's that was the hardest part about starting a podcast. I will admit that right there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my, that's what I sound like. Oh.
I know. So it's the hardest part about being a musician too. You got to get over that.
Oh, absolutely. But once you get over that hump, it's worthwhile. And of course, like we said, you get some amazing music out of it. So this is I believe your one single of 2022 here. Like we said, your lead single of this upcoming album. So what has the reception been like here to this love ballad, this distance track?
Well, I've been playing it live for the last year or so, and so far, the reactions have been great. Everybody seems to like it. If I can get it in front of them, I'm still learning how to be a musician in the digital age, though, and it's tough. But yeah, the feedback that I'm getting is great. I just gotta get it to more ears.
It's always, I mean, obviously that's how things like this get set up, and like PR agents and the wonder of the music business, right?
Yeah.
Is how do you get it out to people? But thankfully, like you mentioned, you've been able to get out onto live shows. And I know pre-pandemic, once again, you were averaging like 150 shows a year. So what has it been like to get back out on the road finally and actually like road test to these songs?
It's been mostly great. There was a lot of talk during the pandemic. Everything's going to change when this is over. Nothing's changed. Like everything's pretty much the same. The one thing that I will say has changed is that I find, not just in music, but in all aspects of life, I find that people are becoming kinder communicators and better communicators. And maybe once again, I think it harkens back to that idea that left to only our, internet devices, I think people were forced to learn how to communicate better. And they had to ask themselves questions. But anyway, so I find this comes across when I'm dealing with agents or talent buyers. I find that people are kinder in their communications. It seems like people are more grateful just to be working again in this industry. As far as getting back out on the road, the first tour back out for me was last September and October, and it was, in some ways, it was one of the best tours of my life. People were really generous. I made good money. I got myself back on my feet. I sold a bunch of stuff. It felt really good. The shows were well attended. It was awesome. And that entire fall, winter was kind of like boomed for me. And then, and then since then, I'm kind of just in a rhythm of more, I play regularly and I've done some little tours, but touring is definitely not quite the same. And I think me personally too, I've also started to appreciate stillness in a way that I never used to. Um, but I mean, I will always love touring, and I will always continue to. But I used to just be like, get me in the van and get me on the road constantly, and now I'm starting to appreciate my my regular morning rituals and trying to stay a little more. I mean, I guess I'm also getting older, right? It's
True.
it's a thing.
Appreciating your time and your space a little bit more.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, just physically, if I don't, do regular like yoga and working out and stuff, then I will be in pain, and it's a lot harder to do that on the road. And I'm sure I have a lot of little motel. You've been to a motel gym. It's not good.
I mean, the one treadmill and the one like Bowflex machine are great and all, but there's not a whole lot of space.
Yeah, and just like the neon lights and the hum of like, I don't know what it is, but there's always a hum. It's probably the neon lights, I guess.
Would make sense, and it just makes it look like kind of shady.
It does. I'm always a little on edge. I'm like, am I going to need to actually run out of here at some point? At least I've already got my shoes on, but
only one exit. Cool. Great. Got it. Oh my goodness. And of course we mentioned earlier that I Hate Goodbyes is the lead track off of an upcoming album here entitled 64 Magic Queens. So first off, I'm actually just like super curious. Where does the title of this album come from?
It came to me in a dream, and the dream, it was so vivid, and in the dream it was my ex. She had written a cookbook in my dream called 64 Magic Queens, and it just had a bright yellow lettering, and it was pink and sparkly. And she's not, I mean, she can cook, but she's not a chef or anything. Like, she'll never maybe never say never, but I don't think she's going to put out a cookbook. Besides, I've already used the title for this album, but this happened, when we were like deep in the throes of our forced long distance in the early pandemic, and it was just so vivid, and I just felt like this is while I was writing the rest of the songs and starting to put the wheels in motion to record, and I was just like, that's the album title, and I have no idea what it means, but I like that because it kind of allows me to search for the meaning in it. When you wake up from your dream and you're like, what did that mean anyway? And in some ways, the whole pandemic was one of those, like, did that just happen? I know some people are still in a pandemic, and it's a very real thing. And I don't know. I've always been attracted to dreams and dreamlike qualities of life, and sometimes life feels hazy and dreamlike, and so yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not, right? Embrace what the spirit world, the dream world was trying to tell you.
That's right. Embrace the unknown.
So it sounds like this album was crafted over a period of time here, throughout the growth of this relationship and otherwise. Yeah,
and there's a couple of songs from my past, from earlier, but they sonically and topically fit. Like, I mean, one of them in particular, I wrote, I must have written it back in 2013, and it's called Ursa Minor, and it talks about the stars, and it I was writing it thinking of a love story between the constellations, and because they can't get to each other, but there's these love stories about, they're not all love stories, some of them are war stories, but all these stars are kind of like stuck in there in the sky where they are, and they can't get to each other. And I was thinking about the Southern Cross versus the North Star, and how Orion's belt looks different depending on where you are in the world. Because Orion's belt is one of the most prominent constellations. It's easy to see, and it looks different through the course of the night and where you are in the world. And so in my travels, this is something that really stood out to me. So that's what I was writing about with this song. And then because I was in this relationship between, Canada and Australia, I was really feeling that we were like these constellations in the sky communicating with each other, but unable to touch each other.
All bright and shiny eyed from across the universe, and you can see it, and you can zoom with it.
Totally. And it was kind of weird that I had already written this song and then I was living it.
No, like you said, just happened to fit perfectly.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, what else can you tell us about this upcoming project?
Well, I recorded it in a basement in Sudbury with my good friends Dany and the Looks, and it was really great because I mean I think in some ways it helped all of us manage our depression at the time. They're like me; they're real kind of road dogs, and so it was kind of, I wouldn't say we felt lost so much as stagnant, not being able to get out on the road and connect with our audiences and make a living the way we know how. And anyway, so I spent the first 6 months of the pandemic in Vancouver, and then I decided to drive home to Ontario. And on my way, I stopped in on Dany and Jeanette, who were at the time, they live in Montreal, but at the time they were in Sudbury. And Dany said, have you written anything? I'm like, yeah, obviously, the world's ending. I've written some songs. And and he said, how are you going to record them? And I said, I don't know. And then he said, I have a studio, right? And I was like, oh. I kind of knew, but it had been, we hadn't seen each other in a couple years probably. So yeah, anyway, so it was just a really great way to spend the dreariest, saddest winter of my life. Because it was, it was the nugget of joy that gave me purpose in that time. Dealing with, when I started the recording, I was still in the relationship, and then we finally gave up on trying to make it work. And so it took me through the breakup, and then I know you said like with the waiting and stuff, we took our time, recording. I was in Toronto. They were in Sudbury, so it was a bit of a mission every time to get up there, and I would spend a while, and there was also, I don't know if in Ontario we had these like travel bans even from area to area, so we had to work around those. And at the time it was it feels like such a distant memory now, but I would go and to get a COVID test and because you had to have one to prove that everywhere you went, and it would be like waiting in the snow in a blizzard around a city block with a bunch of other people, and then all these public health nurses would just be sticking swabs up our nose. And yeah, it was, what a trip.
Surreal, right?
It's so surreal. Yeah, even though we lived it, I'm still like, what?
It's like, what were those 2 years? And like you said earlier, did that actually happen?
Yeah. It did, and here we are. And I'm so grateful to to be healthy and thriving and working. So, and I even explored, this is a total tangent, but like a lot of people, I definitely explored other jobs, and I picked up little things here and there, and I really tried to push myself mentally. I'm like, maybe I could go into UX design, and I would do these little practice courses, and then I was like, I hate this. And then eventually I said, I'm just going to double down on being an artist. This is who I am. Life is short. I'm not going to waste my time trying to be something I'm not.
At least you gave it a shot.
Yeah, I gave it a shot. I gave being someone else a shot.
They always say, step in somebody else's shoes. Okay, stepped in them, walked the miles. You know what? These don't fit. No, I like my shoes better.
Yeah. Yeah, my shoes might be a little beat up and worn out, but whatever, they're comfortable.
They're my shoes. They fit my feet, okay? Like, they're worn into my feet.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it so much. And of course, you say all these things that you're grateful for. And of course, shout out to good friends and people who are willing to, share their studio spaces as well to help get through the emotions, because music is therapy, right?
It is, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it is. And like we said, it brings us incredible songs, not just I Hate Goodbyes, but also, I'm sure, lots of other tracks like you've hinted towards, like you've told us about. If fans want to stay up to date with what's going on in the world of Sarah Burton, maybe see upcoming concert dates, when that album is actually going to drop, where are those places? What's the best way to keep up to date with you?
Well, the best way to keep up to date is to subscribe for shows. The best way is to just subscribe to Bands in Town, because every time there's a new show announced, you'll get a notification, or you can sign up for notifications. My website is sarahburton.ca. My social media handle is Sarah Burton Show. And if you follow me on Instagram, you can see the other weird stuff that I like to do, like cook with ranch powder and taste test chips on the road. But I'm like, I make music. I'll post a song and it'll get a decent amount of views. But if I post a video about Doritos, that's what people really want to see, apparently. So,
some real dedicated Dorito fans out there.
I am a dedicated Dorito fan.
Favorite kind of Dorito? Oh,
Cool Ranch,
100%. Yes. Best answer, 100.
So this became, it's during the early part of the pandemic. I was having a serious Cool Ranch craving, and my friend and roommate Jody was helping me try to find these chips, and we couldn't find them anywhere. They were sold out everywhere. And finally she went to a place in Vancouver called Snackland, which I didn't know exists. I'm like, Snackland sounds like heaven. So she found the last 3 bags of Cool Ranch Doritos, bought them all. And then I was so confused by this, I posted about it, and then people, chimed in. Apparently I wasn't the only person, even within my own, social media community, who was upset about this. But they stopped they stopped manufacturing Cool Ranch Doritos for a while during the pandemic, not because of a low demand, but because people were buying so many Doritos that in order to keep up with Doritos sales, Doritos had to, shorten their list of flavors. So they brought it down to their top 3 selling flavors. And unfortunately, Cool Ranch somehow was only number 4.
What?
And they did this because every time they change the flavor, they have to clean the machines, and it halts production. So they had like cheese. It was like nacho cheese and then like spicy nacho cheese and sweet chili heat.
Okay, sweet chili heat I can understand, but 2 nacho cheeses? Come
But
on.
that's the thing. I'm like, give people, they want variety. Come on. Anyway,
Hmm.
they just went on the, the sales. But anyway, Cool Ranch is back. And not only is it back, but this is the thing. I see Cool Ranch branch out to all these different things. And then, anyway, I'm talking way too much about chips. But
Hey, it's taken over. It's taken back over. Cool Ranch came back with a vengeance.
Cool Ranch forever, yeah.
Yeah, Cool Ranch crew. And of course, you should go ahead and follow Sarah on social media, because not only will you see the Doritos going down, but you'll also see some incredible travel pictures. She's been not just touring around, she's been hitting up the States, seeing the monuments. Go ahead and give her a follow, connect with her, tell her what you think about this new track, all of the fun things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and also I've got a YouTube channel. I'm trying to be more active on it, but I do have a lot of fun videos up there already, including one where I interview someone who hunts squirrels with hawks. It's a good one. You should check it out.
I will definitely have to do that.
And I have a mailing list called the Hump Day News. You can sign up on my website or at the link in my bio on Instagram. And I started during the pandemic, and I was actually sending out an email every Wednesday on Hump Day. And it's not a newsletter. It's just really, it's an editorial from me every week. But I now skip some weeks. I'm taking some liberties, because sometimes you just, sometimes you need to take a week off. But it's fun, and I usually feature a different music video every week, and it's just sort of musings from my travels and from whatever is going on, and I try to keep it light and upbeat, because I just feel like there's so much bad news that we're inundated with all the time. And although it is important to be aware and to be engaged and do what we can, I think we also need to just be entertained sometimes.
It's very true. It can't all be hustle. I mean, as they say, all work, no play.
Right.
Yeah, makes a dull boy.
Yeah.
All right, Sarah, I have had a blast so far. I've got a couple of last questions here for you. So what is something that you are grateful for inside of this world?
Well, I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to play music for a living. That's really awesome. And I'm grateful. I do this a lot. I'm like, I'm grateful for my legs. They take me places. How awesome is it that I can just like put one foot in front of the other and walk out the door and go wherever I want? That's amazing. And I'm like, I guess I think so much about this on such a basic level that sometimes I forget to get excited about bigger stuff. But I'm just grateful for, I'm grateful for it all, and I'm looking forward to having more good times in the near future, and I'm grateful for, more importantly, I'm grateful for people listening to the music and sharing it, and when they tell me that, also it goes a long way.
Mm-hmm. Heck yeah, absolutely. And like we said, you should reach out to her on social media. Let her know what you think about this new track when the album drops. Let her know what you think about that too.
Yeah, and what's your favorite Dorito flavor?
Exactly, and it better be Cool Ranch. All right, Sarah, last question. Through the process of crafting 64 Magic Queens, how has that process helped you to grow as an individual?
Well, definitely. I think we're always growing, or at least we should be. I know there's moments where we might we might be stunted in certain moments, but it definitely, because of the state of mind that I was in when I wrote it. And I just want to be clear for listeners out there, even though I was so depressed when I when I recorded this album and wrote a lot of these songs, the music is not a bunch of downers. The music is fun, kind of got a garage rock vibe, a little bit of a throwback, certainly a 90s throwback that you'll hear on tracks like I Hate Goodbyes, and even sometimes a further back to, sort of 60s garage rock. And there's even a grimy cover of a Lana Del Rey song. But it's helped me to manage sadness, and it's the whole picture. It's not just the music. It's putting into practice. Okay, I know, because it's been proven by people who've studied brains time and time again, that getting exercise releases endorphins, and spending time with friends helps, and laughing helps. Like, at the time I was so depressed, I listened to a ton of comedy. I just forced myself, it's like fake it till you make it, but it works. And I know that it's not always that simple, but at the very least, like, there are these things that we can try, and making music, making art, even if it's not your passion or your job, just scribbling on a piece of paper, anything that you can do to use your mind, but also take your mind off the things that are making you crazy. It does help. So I would say that I am in the best position I've ever been in, as far as knowing what to do if I get in a rut, and knowing how to get myself out of it. And yeah, I've never been happier or healthier. So yeah, I think I've grown in that way from this project.
Heck yeah. Sounds like it's taught you quite a few things. And I thank you for not just sharing these lessons, but also the story of 64 Magic Queens, as well as this new single, I Hate Goodbyes. It's available right now on your favorite music streaming service and on Bandcamp. If you can, support the artist that you love. Please do. I'll have links down below for you to go and make this super easy. Sarah, thank you so very much for joining us once again here on the DTV.
Yeah.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.